Hey, beautiful souls, it's your girl Jay Arias. So let's talk about connecting to your inner child, okay? And how um, easy, easy it can be to really pinpoint what your destiny or what your purpose is, right? So, like, what did you love to do as a child? Literally, like, what were your likes, your hobbies, the things that, made life joyful, playful, fun, right? The things that you aspired to be as a young kid, even if they felt too big to grasp, the things that you threw in the back and you just kind of buried, right? Let's dig those back up because a lot of times those were hints, breadcrumbs from your soul, the universe, leading you back to who you are, who you've always been. And I apologize for the crack in my lip. Where I'm at, it's cold. I got big lips, chapstick, I digress. Anyways, so like when I look back, I realized I was already living kind of pieces of my destiny in a sense when I was younger. So like at one point I wanted to be a criminologist. I wanted to study true crime. I absolutely loved true crime. I still love true crime and watching documentaries. And now I help people solve energetic mysteries through downloads and soul work. I wanted to be a parasitologist at one point. I remember watching the show Monsters Inside Me and being like, like, I want to get rid of them things. Like, what? No. And now I literally help clear etheric and energetic parasites and distortions. I'm an energetic facilitator now. So, and then I loved pretending to be teacher. And of course, your girl always had to be the teacher. And today that's exactly what I do through my transmissions and my teachings through this platform, but mainly through like my YouTube platform. And deep down, and there was like a part where I wanted to be like on TV, which I feel like that comes from like my abandonment wounds and like mommy and daddy issues, but I digress. But I feel like that was a soul echo of me knowing like I would always be on some kind of platform. I was supposed to be well known, right? And deep down, that was my soul knowing that I was meant to be seen, to speak, and to be known in a sense, like I said. And as a little girl, I dressed up as a witch multiple times in a row, you know, and now I understand that witches and shamans are two of the same thing in a sense, right? These were early cues, early soul echoes that were coming through for me, right? So, and like my mom, she was kind of into astrology, but not like I am now. But I remember always knowing my zodiac sign. I always knew that I was an Aquarius. And like that was something that we talked about like a lot was the zodiac. Things like that were taboo or like spiritual concepts. And even as a kid, I just knew, you know, I was an Aquarius and that I was different and that we were coming into the age of the Aquarius. Just breadcrumbs, right? And then, funny enough, that tiny note ended up being one of the first clues pointing toward my deeper spiritual path. And I used to rewatch like Free Willy over and over again. And also that documentary Blackfish when it came out. Oh my god. Like I watched that and it pulled out my heartstrings every time. I cried every single time. I cussed out what do you want to call it? SeaWorld every single time. And just aching for the poor orcas. And even though it made me cry every single time, now I understand I have a connection to the stellar nation of the citation, the whales and the dolphins. And it just makes so much sense now for me. And then I wanted to be a zoologist because I thought maybe I could take care of baby lion cubs. But then I realized more zoologists stay in the lab. So that dream kind of changed for me. But that was my Leonine root showing. I've always loved big cats. I've always been interested into cats. Even though I grew up in a family that was like I hate to say this, but like they would shoot cats with BB guns and shit. Like, that's the kind of family I come from. But anyways, I digress. And nothing about U.S. history class ever interested me, ever. But when they taught us about, like, ancient Egypt, even if some of that stuff was gypped, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, I was all into that. I've had multiple past lives in ancient Egypt, right? Playing teacher was one of my favorite games as a kid. And of course, I was always the teacher. Here I am now doing these transmissions. Like I said, I've always loved and had an affinity for not trying to be culturally appropriate here, but for like Indian and the Hindu culture. the dress, the art, the beauty, the devotion. I've always felt a deep resonance with like the yogis and the Buddha. Like I've always loved Buddha, you know what I'm saying? And I was like indoctrinated into Christianity, you know. And even as a kid, I would just randomly do yoga poses without even knowing it, like putting my back like on the surface and then just putting my feet up into the air and just chilling there. I think that's like a sacral, like an inner child type yoga pose or something like that. I don't know, y'all tell me. But that is a yoga pose that I just naturally did as a kid. No one taught me that. No, you know, I didn't see anyone do that, you know. But then I realized that those were echoes from past lives too, like because I do have Nagini connections. The fact that I've always loved that culture so deeply without knowing why, those are hints. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if I've had a past life in that culture, right? And what I'm really getting at is this is like how you can kind of, in a sense, make it not easy, but more practical to interpret your own past lives, your own Akashic records, and things like that. Like deep subconscious fears, things that you just love, things that make you comfortable, things that you gravitate towards. Like I've noticed that a lot of people, like, you know, a lot of their favorite colors will be a part of their aura sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Especially if they're like more of a high vibrational being or they're operating more from their light than their shadow, as we say, right? But the reflection here is, that's why I always tell people, when you do your inner child work, go back and look at what fascinated you, what made you feel alive, what you couldn't stop talking about or playing out. You're not doing it to stay in the past or relive what you've already healed. You're doing it to recognize the synchronicities, to see how your soul was always dropping hints about your purpose. The realization is, I've had many past lives as a shaman, and when I look back now, I realize my inner child never forgot that. I have many past lives as oracle. You know, I was always interested in medium shows. I had dreams about people I knew passing away before they actually passed away. You know, she was still carrying those memories, those gifts, even if I didn't understand them yet at a young age. That's why I'm so done with people trying to tell others how to act like an adult, you know, and try to divert them from connecting to their inner child and staying connected to that essence. You know, staying connected to your inner child isn't immaturity. Doing the things you like to do when you were a kid doesn't make you immature. It doesn't make you less of an adult. Can I just say that? It's remembering your essence. It's connecting to your essence. Before the world dimmed your light and before they told you who to be, right? So if this resonated with you, give this a like, share it, leave a comment. I'd love to share your own testimonies. What kind of things echoed from your childhood that you see in your reality now that you're like, because that's how it works. That's how it works. It's so, like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's so easy, duh, because it's definitely not easy and duh, but I'm trying to make this sound a little bit more practical and like maybe easier for someone else to be able to do this in their own life, to see the signs, the things that they like, the things that they're scared of, the certain patterns that keep showing up and things like that. You know, there's a reason they're happening. If it's not something that you perpetuated in this life, more than likely 9 times out of 10 it's something you perpetuated from another life, or it's interference. Okay, so much love, Omni-love, absolute healing on your journey. I'm probably going to critique this video, rewatch it 100 million times and think, oh, I look so weird, I messed up, la 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 la. That's okay. I'm just going to post it like it is, because I'm at this point right now where I'm like, I have to embrace who I am and step into my role, okay? As a guardian, as a grid worker, as a new earth builder. It's real, y'all. It's real. And maybe one day I'll like come out with like a backstory so you guys can understand that it's possible for anyone to come out on the other side.